plant people. For today, I have a video that is inspired by Becca De La Plants. She did a video previously on a gardening book where she kind of just like went through it and had a detailed video talking about that book and just different information in it. And lately I have been really into collecting gardening books, whether I'm at Goodwill, garage sales, community sales, whatever it is. And I recently found one that I actually included in a video, I think it was like 2 or 3 videos ago, and it's an indoor gardening book, which you don't really come by these as often. Most of the planty books are going to be ones that are for outside plants, but for this video I figured that I could share a few interesting facts that I found in the book. I just marked them as I was going through it, and there was some stuff that I never really heard of before, or maybe I got a new perspective on it, so I'm going to just go ahead and share it with you guys. Okay, so one of the first facts that I read about was blisters on leaves. This says, leaves form blisters when water droplets fall on them. They are then exposed to strong sunlight. The water acts as a lens and intensifies the light and then burns the leaf. Whenever you see like yellow or browning dots on leaves, we may think it's because of rot, or perhaps the leaf is just coming towards the end of its cycle and it's dying. But I never really realized that it could actually be from just really hot water. I know that I've always been taught to not water the plants with hot water because you don't want to burn their roots, but you should also be careful that if you are watering your plants and it gets on the leaves, that it's not being put directly into bright light, because then it can burn them. I knew this when it came to gardening outside, especially because you want to water your plants at the beginning, end of the day, not in between, because it's just too hot and it will burn the leaves. But the same thing goes for your indoor plants as well. All right, so the next interesting thing that I read was about watering your houseplants. So they talked about saving a dry plant and saving a saturated plant, so one that has been overwatered. Saving a dry plant is pretty self-explanatory. You just need to water it. If some leaves are just too far gone, you can cut them off. Bottom watering is a great way to go ahead and allow that plant to absorb as much water as it needs. And then also misting the leaves will help the plant get hydrated faster. As far as saving an overwatered plant, the majority that you hear of is, just repot it or let it dry out. But this book recommended taking the plant out of its pot, if it can. What they did is they placed that plant on a plate and they got napkins and just soaked the extra water around the soil. And I thought that was a pretty good idea. I've never really thought to do that before. So if you overwatered your plant, it's starting to show signs that it's just too wet, take it out and absorb it with a paper towel. That way you don't have to throw out the soil and you don't have to kind of treat it like a waiting game for your plant to dry out. Another interesting thing that I read, and this one I find to be the most interesting, is something called double potting. So if your plant is one that really enjoys having humidity, it likes wet soil, this is a really good idea. So basically what you do is you have your plant in its pot, and they demonstrated this with terracotta, and you get a pot size that I would say is about an inch bigger all around the side of the smaller pot, and you fill that second pot with soil as the first pot is sitting in it. They also showed in the book that you don't necessarily have to put soil in that second pot. You can do peat moss or whatever substrate you want, and then you just water that soil or substrate whenever you water your plant to help keep in some extra moisture, extra humidity. I also feel like this would be a good idea for plants like African violets or Phoetonias or some begonias that do not like to be top watered. If you just water in that second pot, it will seep through the terracotta and water the plant, and so that way you can avoid fungus and other pests. The last thing I will share is maintaining houseplants when you are away from home. So whether you're on vacation or you have a business trip and you need to leave your plants, maybe you don't have someone that can take care of them. What you can do is, first of all, of course, water all your plants that need it before your trip. That's just a basic thing that you can do. If you have any plants that are flowering, if you notice that they are starting to kind of head towards the decline, but maybe they aren't necessarily shriveled already, go ahead and cut those off, because by the time that you get home, they for sure will be shriveled and dead. So it's easier to just go ahead and cut it off and allow your plant to focus its energy elsewhere and not trying to replenish those blooms. And another tip they gave is just to cut off the dead leaves, and that goes for the same thing, so that the plant can focus on other things other than that dead leaf. But one thing that I found pretty interesting is how they chose to keep the plants watered while you're gone. One of the options was a wick. So there was a glass in the middle that had two ends of a wick in it. It was filled with water, and then you had the two plants on either side with the wicks going into the soil. And I see the wick watering method all the time at like Lowe's and big box stores, but I've never incorporated that in watering my own plants. That's a pretty neat idea, especially for when you're not home, for your plants to get the water they need, and then only what they need. Another idea they had was a bowl full of leca balls, and it was full, I'm sure it's probably like 3/4 full of water, and then they just placed their plants on top of the leca balls. I will say that this will only work for plants that have drainage holes. It'd probably only work best for nursery pots. I wouldn't necessarily use like a ceramic or terracotta pot with this method. And then the last method that they had on here was placing the plants on a mat that is on your kitchen sink. So basically this mat is a special mat. It's a capillary mat. Just 1/4 of it stays in a divot of water, and then it diffuses the water out throughout the mat. So it's kind of like the leca ball situation. That was it for this book. I hope that you guys learned some fun information just like I did. I know that there's always Dr. Google, search engines. So there's tons of sites for you to learn that kind of information on, but there's just something exciting about having it like actually in your hands, able to touch it, read it, and feel it. It's almost like the information is retained better, but that all depends on how you learn and your learning style. Basically the point that I'm getting to is I'm pretty interested in these. So if you want to see more videos of this style, then give it a thumbs up. But if you don't, give it a thumbs down, so that way I can know if this video was boring or if you want to see more like it. If you'd like to, hit that subscribe button. I do post on Sundays and Thursdays. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. I had fun reading that book and just finding information that I thought you guys might find neat. I hope that everyone has been having a wonderful week and that you are excited for Halloween. I've already been watching a couple Halloween movies, and I have some pumpkins out front on my porch, so I'm getting in the spirit. But I will see you all in my next video. Bye guys! Holly's here with me again. She's pretty much always with me in every video, but she's just down low so you don't see her. Oh yeah, and Astrid. She's chilling on her hammock.